Hey guys, Kaz here, and today I am finally doing my September wrap up. So, you know, a bit late, but just not been in the mood to film. It happens. What I have been in the mood to do at one point is change my books around though, if you can tell. Since the last time you saw my video, that happened. Just for fun. But anyway, I read a bunch of things in September, so let's just dive right in. So first up, I read Invincible Volume 1, Family Matters. This is a comic about a superhero guy. His dad's a superhero guy, and then he doesn't know if he's gonna get powers, and then he does get powers. And you know, it was alright. I think I gave it 3 stars. It was kind of nothing new to the genre. It was sort of painting by numbers, superhero, not knowing he's a superhero, and then, you know, the attractive girl in class also is a superhero, you find out. There was nothing great about it. This is the sort of artwork we're having here. And yeah, there's just not much storyline. There's a fight scene in here between him and this alien race. And then in the back, because there's always like little bits in the back of trade paperbacks, like artwork and practicing scenes and stuff. And in the back, the guy who wrote it literally said, oh, we don't know what these are called yet. So that just shows how much effort they actually put into the storyline. They didn't even have a name for this alien race or why they were there. It was just there for no reason. And yeah, it was just kind of meh. Probably not going to carry it on. Next up, I read The Rose Princess and the Queen of the Dark Salt Sea. Yes, I had to read that because I would have forgotten. By Isabel Quilty. This one I got to read to review. It's a 40-page novella. What is going to be the start of a series. It's like a little prequel type of thing. And yeah, it was fun. Normally I don't really get into novellas very much, you know, they're too short, 40 pages, and what can you do with that? But I actually quite enjoyed this. It's about these 2 princesses from different families, and the families are at war and hate each other, and they're destined to hate each other, but they're actually in love. Yes, it's sapphic. And then they're trying to figure out how to do something to make them not start hating each other. And yeah, there's like fight scenes, there's going to this different little world, there's a thing that happens at the end which definitely sets up what will probably be the first book in the actual proper series. So yeah, it was a fun time, and the way the princesses were described and how they changed, like when they were going to fight, all their battle armor changed, and it made them sound like Sailor Moon characters, or anime characters anyway. Next up, I read Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. This one has been on my 2020 TBR, finally got to it, and I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I might do. Obviously I wanted to enjoy it, but I don't read a lot of horror, thriller, this sort of genre, so I thought maybe I won't enjoy it, but I did. But I also think part of the enjoyment is because I've seen Hannibal the TV show, so I kind of have all these characters in my head already. Obviously not specifically in the way they're described in here necessarily, but because I already had those names with a face and a voice, I felt like I could get into this straight away and really enjoy it. Whereas I think if I went into this without knowing Hannibal and without knowing the characters, I might have got lost a bit, because characters are introduced like Doctor this and Lieutenant that and whoever, with sort of no characterization and no description. So I feel like if I didn't already know what characters look like in my brain, I probably would have been like, who's that again? What's that name? Which name is that person's attached to? What do they do? So yes, really enjoyed it, but potentially because I'd already watched Hannibal, I'm sure you know what this is about. It's about Hannibal Lecter, but not really, because it's the first book in the series, but it's also set after Hannibal is caught, and then it's talking about Red Dragon Killer. And yeah, it was fun and gruesome and great, and I have the next 2 books as well, so I'll read them at some point. I also felt like Thomas Harris actually did research into police procedural stuff and detective work, because it read like actual detective work, whereas a lot of stuff like this, the very few I have read, are very fantastical, and the twists are really silly, and the way they find stuff out is just not very likely. But I feel like in here, you know, it felt proper. But what do I know? I'm not a flipping CSI. Next up, I read Runaway Volume 4, True Believers. This is the start of a new arc. It also has different artists, so it looks slightly different. The characters aren't exactly as they were portrayed in the first 3. Here's my attempt at showing you the artwork. There we go, there's the art in here. And yeah, I enjoyed it. I think Runaways is just a fun set of characters doing fun stuff. It is about a group of kids who find out that their parents are super evil masterminds, and then the first 3 kind of dealt with that, and then now we're in a different area. Same characters, but they've dealt with that bit and now they're doing other stuff. I think my absolute favourite piece of this was this panel. Basically this girl has a magic wand, but it only comes out when her blood is shed, and then she's like, hey bro, I didn't see anybody stab you, and then she's all like, oh yes, periods exist. And I just thought that was a fun time because books and comics don't very often acknowledge that periods exist, so you know, fun times. After that I read Avengers, the Children's Crusade. This is about the Young Avengers and the Avengers and the X-Men all together doing stuff. Basically it's about, I don't know, is it spoilers if I talk about stuff? There's some young Avengers and then their mother may or may not be Scarlet Witch. They think she is, but she also might not be, but also it's like the soul rather than physically giving birth. But anyway, they're trying to find the Scarlet Witch because she's done some naughty stuff, and then the Avengers are trying to find the Scarlet Witch because she's done some naughty stuff, and the X-Men are also, guess what, trying to find her because stuff. And that's what this is. Here is the artwork. And yeah, it was just a fun time. I really enjoyed the Young Avengers, and I thought it was funny because out of all the characters in here, they were the most adult. The Avengers and the X-Men were just being like childish and silly and demanding stuff, and they're like, bro, calm down, use your brain. So that was fun. Next up, I read The Gravity of Us by Phil Stamper. I found it on my library ebook thing, and I was like, no way, that's cool. And then like 2 months later, when it was my turn to read it, I gave it 2 stars, didn't I? It just was not anything that I wanted. It was only 250 pages, and by the halfway point I had to try and start speed reading it because I was so bored. It was just boring. The characters had no characterization. The main character is a social media star and he collects tapes to listen to, cassette tapes, and that is his personality, nothing else. And then his love interest is cute. That's the only thing that happens. Oh, that boy's cute, that boy also likes me, and now we're together. And they never actually talk or have a connection or have anything in common or have cute moments or banter. It's just insta love and it's pointless. And then the main plot is all around this space thing, like this crew is going to go to Mars and they're trying to figure out who to go to Mars. And I feel like the author really enjoys the whole space thing, and I think this would have been better if it was literally just like a mockumentary or like a pretend non-fiction, you know, what would happen or how we would go to Mars, rather than trying to make it a YA about social media and reality TV. It just didn't work for me because all the things were there, could have been interesting. So on this space thing, there's a crew filming it as a reality TV show, and then also you got our main character who does his like vlogging. So it's all that, and who tells the truth and who lies, and is reality really reality when it's in the media. And that could have been really interesting, but it just really was not. It was boring, it was overdone. They talked about all the space stuff and I was like, I don't care anymore. The characters were unlikable. Yeah, unfortunately didn't like it, but fortunately didn't buy it, so silver lining. After that I read volume 1 of Our Dreams at Dusk. This is a manga. I think there's 4 volumes in total, and it is sort of whimsical, and it's a boy who gets outed at school and then somehow finds his way to this cafe, and then the owner, or at least the person that is always around there when you need them the most, is someone called Someone-san, which is quite fun. And she's just, I don't even know, it's like magical and weird, and there's something about her but we don't know what. And it's basically about main characters sort of going there and trying to get connections with people. There's also a female romance in here as well, and it seems to just be all about belonging and trying to find a place to belong. And I think the other volumes follow different characters but who are also like LGBTQIA+, I think the next one might even be trans, but I might also be making that up. I feel like one of them is. But anyway, yeah, it was really quick, really cute. Oh, let me show you the artwork. Seems as it's an art thing. It's really hard doing that with this. Here is the art. After that I read I'll Always Miss You by Reino Tierney, and this one I actually really enjoyed. I think I gave it a 4.5 stars because it was just so good. So this is about a family, Moroccan American family, and they take in this white boy who is the son of a friend of the family because his mum is not looking after him very well, and it's just really good. So basically the son of the family and this guy, there's a hate and then a friendship and then a romance, and it's just done so well because it's slow burn. And even when they actually start like letting each other know that they like each other, and then they kiss, and then after the kiss, guess what, they're not just all of a sudden all over each other like 90% of all other books. Let me take a step back. A lot of the time with LGBT books, let's just say specifically male, high school, right? They would have never even acknowledged or told anyone they're gay. They never kissed a boy or anything, and then as soon as they go out with the first person ever, they're like all over each other. They act like they've had loads of experience. You know, it seems to happen all the way like that. In here, after the kiss, they're really awkward and they're like, oh, what should we do? And then they just kind of, they don't jump into stuff, and then maybe they'll be like, oh, touch each other a little bit, like hold hands or something, and it's really cute because, thank you, actually show two characters being a little bit like, oh, that's weird, but also amazing, but also I don't know how to feel about this, and I loved that. Also, there's another part of this book where it's kind of like a spooky haunted house, so that's always a bonus. Obviously I read it in the wrong month, didn't know that was going to happen, but they move to this house in another state to be closer to other family members, and also because of another thing, but read it and then you'll find out. And the house is said to be haunted, and all this weird creepy stuff goes on, and then, I mean, I knew what was going on, I knew why because I could tell, but I wasn't mad at the fact that the characters couldn't, because sometimes in mysteries and stuff, if I know what's happening and the other person does it, it's annoying if it's really obvious. But in here I felt like it wasn't obvious for them, but for me I knew. But then it was fun because I was like, ah, that's what they think, but I know it's this, so I enjoyed it. So yeah, part creepy spoopy stuff, part slow burn coming of age contemporary. It was a very good time. There's also a little bit of a side plot with Isa trying to find more of his culture. Like I said at the beginning, he's Moroccan American, but both of his parents moved to America when they were young, so he feels like he doesn't have any connection to his culture. But the family member they move nearer to is his sister, who is married, and her husband teaches him about Moroccan food and stuff, so that's a nice little side piece where it's talking about him and trying to get involved more in his culture and stuff like that. So yeah, it was really good. Next up, I read 7 Days, and you may have seen me talk about this if you saw my video where I mentioned this book and the book I read after this, which was Damie Bryson Keller. I did a video about these. It was kind of like slightly, not really, but kind of a little bit part vlog, but I'm mostly just talking about the similarities and differences and plagiarism and stuff, so check that video out if you want to. But this one, Manga, it is about a boy who seemingly just goes out with whoever asks him at the beginning of a week, and then our main character asks him out as a boy. He doesn't really know why, but he's like, maybe I'll ask him out. And then it spans the week, and there's a lot of miscommunication in here, but I actually don't mind it because a lot of the time, that is my most hated trope. But in here, it was acceptable, which makes a change. But yeah, there's a lot of miscommunication, a lot of getting angry at each other for things that are not necessarily true. There was a bit of a weird side plot about why the guy was sort of dating people. I don't want to go too much into it. I did talk about it in my video about what the actual premise is, but I feel like it might be spoilers. I don't know about the reasoning behind it and whether it's true or not. But yeah, anyway, let me just show you the artwork because, you know, that's what we're about. This is the sort of artwork in here. And then, like I just said, after that I read Damie Bryson Keller, which again I talked about in that video. And this one is sort of a similar concept, which is why people say it's plagiarism and why loads of people are one-sided without even actually reading it, because it's very different. Thank you very much. This, like the other one, is based around a week-long dating thing, but it is a dare. So a guy says, oh, I dare you to go out with a different person every week, and in 3 months, if you have, then you win the dare. And this one takes place over 2 weeks, so we've got the week of the dare, which again, a boy asks him out, but then there's also a week after that, and it's like this coming of age, slow build. Well, not really slow build, it's over a week. Quite quick, but acceptably not too quick. Sort of romancy between these two boys, and it's really cute, and I really enjoyed it. And please don't let this whole debate make you not read this book, because I really fucking loved it. I gave it 4.5 stars. It's great. So yeah, can't show you the artwork in here because it's just words. This one deals more with heavy topics. 7 Days is very much like a fluffy, cute kind of manga, whereas this does talk about homophobia and blackmailing and stuff like that, and people being bastards for no reason, you know, and people getting beaten up for no reason, and religion. So yeah, read it, it's great. We're about halfway through. This is going to be a long one, so I think you need a little video from one of our sponsors. Hey Tim, do you think everyone should like and subscribe? After that, I read the ongoing Reformation of Mika Johnson by Sean Kennedy. This one I read on my Kindle. It's on my 2020 TBR, so I thought I should probably get that read, and I really liked it. So here's the thing, if you don't like unlikable characters, you won't like this, because Mika Johnson is like sarcastic, angry, quick to get annoyed at people, like all of that. But I loved it because you don't often see that character, and it's acceptable, and you're allowed to have people that are not likeable as a main character. But he was likeable, but also he's very quick to snap and get really annoyed at people. But I feel like he had reason. So basically, this one is about going to a football camp, and he is out gay, and it's just about him being him and not wanting that whole part of him being the reason that he isn't getting chosen for his football stuff. There's also a bully situation where some people are just really homophobic, and yeah, he's just very quick to temper. If somebody says something to him, he will say it straight back to them and get up in their face and get really aggressive, because he's like, why should I just let people push me around just because I'm gay? I'm gonna fight back. So it's all about that. And then there's this ex-footballer who also came out like halfway in between his football career, and he has this sort of mentoring thing where he helps kids who are gay and like sport and stuff like that. So he's kind of trying to mentor Mika and trying to tell him, calm the fuck down. And yeah, I just really enjoyed this. There is a little bit of a romance as well, but I'm glad that this sports contemporary was a sports contemporary with a bit of romance in. It wasn't a sports contemporary until the boy came along, and then we never talk about the sports again. It's very much, even after he likes a boy and the boy likes him, most of it is about this sports camp and sports. So gay sports contemporary, I'm a fan. After that, I read The Wolf in the Water by Josie Jeffrey. I got this, it's an arc, it's out now, I think. I'm pretty sure it came out on the 8th of October, so I think it's out now. But this is a fantasy, it's the first book in a series, and I really enjoyed it. So the way it looks like it could be a middle grade. Maybe that's just me, or like a YA. It is YA, but it's definitely high fantasy, like straight away kicks into a world with loads of different stuff, and there's a lot of world building, you have to figure out what's going on. And there's a map at the front, and there's all these different houses that have power, and I really enjoyed it. A main character is disabled, and I loved that, because it's just a part of her. So basically, Carla is the daughter of the guy who is the head of the Glaucs, who are a powerful family, but they're the lowest. I think there's 10 and they're the lowest, so they've got power but not a lot of power. And basically her dad dies under mysterious circumstances, not a spoiler, it happens right at the beginning. Mysterious circumstances, and because of that her mum has to remarry somebody, because women are not allowed to own the houses and have power and own property and all that jazz. And her stepfather is an absolute knobhead, but also just in general, this whole world, the whole concept, the whole place look down on people that have disabilities, and kind of look at her and think, why wasn't she just thrown out as a baby or killed as a baby? Because why would you let somebody like that live still, especially in a high house, because they don't deserve power. And basically she walks with a limp. She had some sort of illness when she was a kid. It doesn't say in the book, but in the back it does, in the little sector that talks about the content. Yes, there is a whole page of content warnings at the back. Imagine that. So she walks with a limp and she uses a cane, and I loved it. It was such great representation because she wasn't seen as some sort of hero or some sort of martyr, as, oh, she's so good because she has a disability but she's managed to do this. But she's also, on the opposite side, not portrayed as somebody that can't do anything and who is frail and needs help and needs somebody else to do anything. She's just a person who has her ups and downs, who has her faults, who has her positives, who also happens to be disabled, and that is great. And with that being said, this book, the whole tone kind of shifts because you think it's going to be about this whole new husband, but then also there's this other secret that comes and gets revealed, and then it's mostly about that, but I don't want to talk about it because it's a secret. But I really enjoyed it. Definitely check it out if you think that sounds good. And thank you again to Josie Jeffrey for sending this to me because I very, very much enjoyed it. With this book and every book I talk about in here, I mean, add me on Goodreads if you haven't already, because I make a lot more sense on there. I just chat shit in these videos, but I actually write like actual proper reviews on Goodreads that make sense and everything. So, you know, throw me on there. The link is in the description. After that, I read The Electric Air by Victoria Lee. This is the sequel and finisher, because it's the duology, of The Fever King, which I really enjoyed. And then this one, unfortunately, not so much. So, I feel like, again, I made more sense with my review, but I'm going to try. This book, it just was not what I wanted. I can't tell you what I did want because I don't know where I wanted the story to go or how I wanted it to happen or finish or go forward. But what I didn't want is anything in here. It just... First of all, the pacing was absolutely terrible. It's a chunky book and it was just so slow. 100 pages in, I felt like nothing had happened. It felt like the same interactions over and over and over and over again. And I was like, okay, but can we move it along, please? And then when it finally did start moving along, it went like that. Like, to the point of, in the same chapter, one paragraph, two characters are just sat in their house having supper. And then literally in the next paragraph, not even a new chapter, in the next paragraph, one of them is like off in a different city, in a different flipping continent, because they don't even count as cities anymore, in a war, like 2 days deep into a war. And I'm like, what are you on about? You've taken like this many pages for anything to happen, and then when it does happen, it happens so quickly that, what? And then the pacing and the tone and everything changes, and I'm just like, why? Why? Also, I felt like all the characters were just not like they used to. I really dislike it in books, in series, where all the characters, you know, they're the characters. They have personalities, they have different relationships between each other, whatever. And then the next book in the series, they're just completely different and it's all explained away like, oh, but it's 6 months later, so, you know, stuff's happened. That's why they're completely different and act completely different and have completely different reasons for doing stuff. And I just don't like that. And I felt like all of the characters from the first book had none of the same relationships, friendships, whatever in this book, or the same reasons to do anything. And then one of my favourite characters, their power, it just doesn't happen anymore, so their whole personality is completely different. And then all the secondary characters just felt like they were there for no reason other than to move the plot forward. Like, there's these 2 new characters who help somebody, I'm not going to say because it might be spoilers from the first one, but they help somebody get to somewhere. And then, like, they're never given a personality. They're interchangeable, these 2 girls, they're the same person, but they're just there so, like, in 200 pages they can be the reason they get somebody over from Texas because one of them's from Texas. And up to that point they've done nothing else. And it just felt like they were used just as plot devices and didn't have a personality or any characterizations or any reasoning to do anything themselves. And again, with some of the students, I feel like I'm saying loads of words, and if you haven't read the first book or know what I'm talking about, this just makes no sense. Let me just take a step back. It's about, this is set in the future where there's this disease going around and you either die or you get better and you've got magic. And basically there's like all these magic people and they're having their students, and they're learning how to use their craft so they can then be part of the government whatevs. That's a very, very simplified roundup. But take that, and these characters knew each other, they were all in the base together, the students together. And getting back to what I was saying, I felt like all the characters that we knew from the first book weren't in there, and if they were just pointless. And then one of them that is randomly mentioned at the end, and then all of a sudden do a very, very, very significant part of the thing to be able to move the plot forward and to do the ending. And if they weren't there, then this wouldn't have happened. And they literally are not mentioned throughout the whole of the rest of the book. They just randomly bump into the main character and is like, oh, you're a person, can you do this for me? Deus ex machina much. But yeah, and then there's a lot of political intrigue in this. I really enjoyed it in the first book. I thought it was really interesting about all these power plays and different places liking people with magic, different people not, how these people are treated, how the civilians and citizens are treated. And in here, there's even more of that, to the point where it gets boring. And then at the end, like, stuff happens, and then nothing is explained about where the politics goes from there. Nothing. There's like this little wrapped up happy ending thing, kind of thing, and then it's just sort of never mentioned how power is going, what the citizens are doing now, what's the aftermath, what's happening with the wars, or is there a war? Are people together now? Are people happy? Are people not happy? Are people in power? Are people not in power? And I was like, for a book that talks a lot about power and politics, you certainly just like give us no indication at the end about anything to do with it, so it's kind of obsolete and pointless. So yeah, that was another thing that annoyed me. But let me just wrap it round. This book talks a lot about abuse, and I feel like if this wasn't the sequel to The Fever King, if this book was its own separate book and wasn't trying to wrap up what The Fever King did, I probably would have really liked it and really felt something for it, because a lot of it is about, like I say, abuse and how different people mentally deal with that, and how it's a cycle, and how you can be in a abusive relationship and not realise it, and then when you do realise it, sometimes you can put yourself as, oh, but it's my fault, but it's not really your fault. And I feel like that was done really well, but that should have been its own book and shouldn't have been a sequel to The Fever King, because it just felt so left field. Not necessarily left field, because I knew that this character was an absolute knobhead, but the way that it's portrayed in here, it just felt like it threw away everything about the magic and about the students and about all of the important plots from the first book were thrown away to the side to just deal with that in here, and it really let the duology down. And I feel like if that on its own was a different book, I would have really enjoyed it and really felt a lot. But in here I was like, it's the same interaction over and over again, and you're not doing anything with the plot, and it just really annoyed me. And unfortunately, didn't really like this. I think I gave it 2 stars. Maybe 2.5, can't remember. And then last but not least, although technically not really because I finished it in October, but shush, last but not least, The Burning Maze. The Trials of Apollo, The Burning Maze by Rick Riordan. I read this and it was fun. But people spoiled me for something, and it's annoying when people spoil things for people, so shut up about spoiling stuff. Something happens in here, and I knew it was going to happen because people on Twitter who were very happily talking about how, oh, Percy Jackson is going to get a TV adaptation. I know, let's talk about a plot point that happens 3 series in front of Percy Jackson and then 3 books into that series. Why? Why did you have to mention anything about this when you're talking about Percy Jackson as a TV show? But anyway, other than that, and me being salty about that and knowing stuff that was going to happen, so, you know, I still very much enjoyed the book. I kind of forgot how amazing the Arrow of Dodonna is, because apparently I love inanimate objects that have personalities, because the Sword of Summer in Magnus Chase was also one of my favourite characters, and I love the Arrow of Dodonna in here. It's an arrow and he talks in Shakespearean English, and I am a fan. But yeah, I mean, Trials of Apollo, it was a fun time. I like Apollo. I was kind of annoyed with him in the first book because he's really selfish and up himself, but obviously is because he's a god. But in here, you know, he's chilled out a bit. We're in the 3rd book. He's getting a little bit more human, but also still sarcastic and still thinks he's amazing, and I really like it. All your fun, what you would expect from a Rick Riordan book. Quests and riddles and stuff. So there we go, we have completed the September wrap up. I feel like this is really long because I actually talked about stuff for a decent amount of time, so maybe that's why it took me so long to film it, because I wasn't in the right frame of mind. But hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know down below what you read in September. If you've read any of these, what did you think of it? If you have any opinions about anything, say some words down below. I'll reply. It'll be a good time. If this is your first video by me and you enjoy it, then please check out some of the others. And if you continue to enjoy it, then please subscribe. That'd be awesome. Anyway guys, I'll see you in a few days, I swear, with another video.